Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, baby. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone.
What's happening?
Did you watch my basketball team last evening, everyone?
You know how much Wizards I've watched this season?
0?
0.0.
Really? I flipped them on that night where they were playing Boston, and I was like, whoops, well, that was a mistake because it was 44-10 in the first quarter.
Here's what happens, actually. Here's what's happened all season so far. What, they played 3 games or something like that. I actually...
Chris Miller was playing center that night. It was a rough one.
1 or 2 times the Caps were playing,
Yeah.
so I have an excuse there. I was paying attention to one Monumental team and not the other.
Yeah.
The other 2 times I forgot they're on, and by like 8:30 when I remember that they're on, the game's over with. So I just, no reason
As I see them again, now it's like, well, they're playing the Hornets tonight. And it's like one of those where I'll go, maybe if I just want to see a game that's probably going to be close.
There's literally nothing else on.
I guess. Yeah, that's where we are.
That's where they are right now.
That's where we are.
I'm
no
not-
Capitals tonight, right? So,
they're tomorrow. Both
they
Wiz
get
and
5
Caps.
days between games, right? I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, trust
All right.
me. Wiz and Caps tomorrow.
Let me do the news here real quick because we're going to have the Power Hour of Seattle. Not by design, just these people were available today, and I wanted to do it. Mike Salk, my friend who hosts the very popular Brock and Mike show up in Seattle with Brock Hurd, is going to join us in like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And then KJ Wright, former Super Bowl champion with the Seahawks, who also works for the same station, is going to join us at 3:25. And, for those of you who are amateur producers, you're like, why are you doing that? And I'll go, because they were both available on this day, and I wanted to have them on, and this is when they said they'd be available. So you'll just have to deal with it. Just deal with it.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's timely. They're coming on.
That's right. Yes.
They're coming on. Anyway, the Boston Globe is literally reporting that if Bill Belichick and the Patriots lose in Germany this week, that he might be fired.
That's malpractice. I'm sorry.
They're literally reporting it now.
The greatest coach of all time doesn't get to finish out the season with the team that he's with, that he won all the Super Bowls with.
Well, also, if you're going to trade him, you can't fire him.
That's right.
him.
Yes, exactly.
Remember that part? If you're going to trade him, you can't fire him.
Uh-huh.
So I don't believe this, but I mean, it's enough that like ESPN was doing full segments on it, which I was like, yeah, well, it's a talking point. And then, but to see it literally written, the Boston Globe says if he loses this weekend that he might be out. I can't, and they're going to install Gerard Mayo immediately as the head coach. And then there's other reports in it saying they want Vrabel. How they going to, I mean, they'd have to get him traded from Tennessee.
They're going to trade Belichick for Vrabel?
I don't know.
Vrabel ain't getting fired?
I'm going to say this. I'm going to reiterate when this came out last week. I'm going to say the same thing. I really don't think he's coming here. I don't. Because I don't think we're trading 2 first-round picks for him. 2, I don't think that he's going to listen to whichever GM we hire.
I do think
I don't think it's happening.
I do think it's different if he's fired, though, and there's no compensation. I'm just saying.
Maybe he wants to live in Annapolis.
That's
Who
what
knows?
I'm saying.
I don't know.
I think it's a different animal if all of a sudden he's put out there with everyone. Now,
maybe.
Do I like that? I don't know. Ask me in February when it happens. But yeah, it's a different animal. I fully agree with you. They were never going to trade for him. There's no way they would give up draft capital to get a coach.
If they were trading Montez Sweat and Chase Young to get enough capital to get Bill Belichick, I would be like, I don't know, guys. Like that's quite
a little much.
That's a little much.
Is Dan gone?
Yeah,
is Dan actually
what's
gone?
happening right now?
Is Dan off the yacht again or something?
Right. Was this trade made from a yacht? Because what's happening right
Dan's
now?
on the Zoom.
Yeah. Push send to NFL. I was like, I don't believe this.
Yeah.
The other piece of news, too, Carson Wentz is back. Carson Wentz finally has a job back in the NFL, and he's going to a team that we're playing in a month. And we just missed it with Heineke. I was so upset. Could you imagine the year we would have had if we had Heineke a couple of weeks ago starting against us and Wentz, which will be a possibility in a few weeks because he signed with the Rams today, as McVay is calling him a primary backup to Matthew Stafford. But I was looking at Stafford's contract, and I'm wondering if there's some kind of injury guarantee for next year, and that's why they may end up playing him at some point in time. So Carson Wentz back in the NFL. Heineke's starting, and Wentz could be starting by December for the 3-6 Rams. Oh, the world is turning. And Bill Belichick is suddenly potentially a free agent. I just can't believe all of this. I can't believe it. All right. We got Mike. Yes, we got Mike Salk. All right. Let's say hi to Mike Salk, my friend from in Seattle. Mike, thank you so much for doing this last minute. I know I asked you like an hour ago to do this, and we tried to find a time, and you said right now. So thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
You know me. I need a lot of time to prepare for this.
Yeah.
I really get all my ducks in a row, do my research, make sure I know what's going on. Yeah, I think I'm ready.
Let me ask you this, because this is kind of off the board, but I don't know if you saw that Boston Globe thing that says that Belichick is literally coaching for his job this week. And here's Pete Carroll. He's still coaching in Seattle. I mean, how do you reconcile all of this? I mean, they were the top of the league together not that long ago, and they both seemed like unfireable people, frankly. Really? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. And obviously two people that I've spent a lot of time around. I'm from Boston, did a little bit of radio there, didn't go all that well. And I've been in Seattle for the better part of the last 14 years and interviewed Pete every week. And it is interesting, right? And both of them, I think a lot of that has to do with their success post or lack thereof post quarterback and what's happened with those quarterbacks after they left, right? And Belichick, obviously, you know the case, and Brady goes and wins in Tampa, and Bill has just kind of struggled. I don't think that diminishes Bill's legacy at all. Not in my book. He's still the greatest coach that ever lived. But, obviously what's happened since has not been pretty. And in Pete's case, look, Russ wanted to cook, right? That's what we heard. Let Russ cook, let Russ cook. And Pete kept saying, I don't think that's what he's best at. So Russ goes to Denver. Last year, he's allowed to do it his way. It's a total disaster. And in the meantime, Pete put Geno Smith, a career backup, in a position to succeed. That looked pretty darn good on Pete's resume, and it's going to give him, I think, a real edge here, not just this year, but moving forward.
Were you on board with it last year? Was it obvious to you that Geno was the right choice for them?
No, I was very much on board with the idea to let Russ go. I think that was the right time, and they did that the right way, and that had become an untenable situation. It never occurred to me that it would go as poorly as it would in Denver, but that was sort of icing on the cake for Pete and his way of doing business. No, I was in the find somebody better camp, whether it was Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield or various other guys that have been pretty terrible since. So maybe my opinion isn't worth a whole lot. But Geno, stepped in and did a really nice job, especially in the first half of last year. He did not look like the career backup that he had been. You got to see the strong arm, the accuracy, some leadership skills that had developed over time that obviously weren't there earlier in his career. And he did a pretty nice job with his team last year, getting them to the playoffs without a ton of talent and a lot of young players. This year, it's been not quite as good. It hasn't been horrible, but it hasn't been good enough for most fans here in Seattle. I mean, you're sort of looking at a C or D kind of a grade, and while they've been pretty good and the defense has certainly been a lot better than it was over the last few years, the offense has lagged. And, Geno's thrown a lot more interceptions, a lot more turnovers. The QB rating is not nearly as high as it was last year, and that's starting to be a little frustrating for folks here in Seattle.
So I haven't watched a lot of them yet, but the schedule reads, I think the Lions win's a good one, but they beat the Panthers, they beat the Giants, they beat the Cardinals, they beat the Browns without Deshaun at home, and they've lost to Bengals and Ravens, who are good teams, and then the Rams. I don't know what to make of the Rams early because it's early.
Yeah, it's the first week of the season, and then you just throw that one out.
Okay.
The Bengals loss was actually a pretty good loss. They played really well in that game. They gave up 2 drives in the first 2 games, two touchdowns. And after that, they were the better team for most of that game. Honestly, they played really well. And, we interviewed Pete the next day, and he came in as excited as I've seen him after a loss. Like, oh, my God, we figured this out. I know we lost, but. And that was not the case with the Ravens this past Sunday. That was an utter butt whooping in every conceivable way. They got their butts kicked. Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so I guess you've answered my question. Are they a good team? Because the teams that they beat, 3 of them have a combined 4 wins. So are they good? I don't know. You tell me. Are they good?
I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team, but I think they're a pretty good team. They're probably a notch below, obviously, Philadelphia, Dallas, San Francisco, in the NFC. But yeah, I mean, they did go on the road and beat Detroit, which is relevant. Their losses to Pittsburgh, to Baltimore and Cincy, those might be the two best teams in the AFC, along with Kansas City. So I'm not like killing them for those losses. They've just unfortunately played a lot of extreme teams, right? Some of the worst and some of the best. The win that probably, I don't know, maybe is against the most middle of the road team is Cleveland, where you are looking at a top tier defense. No, you're right. Watson wasn't playing, but they might be better without him anyway. I mean, that was a pretty good win.
Okay.
And it wasn't just that they won, it's that they looked real good in doing so.
Okay. Let me ask this then. Let me go back a couple years then when the Russ stuff was kind of ending the way it was ending. Did you think Pete Carroll would survive all of it?
Yeah.
Why?
I did. Because a couple of reasons. One, Pete is about culture. I mean, that's really the thing that makes Pete special. I don't know that he's the greatest X's and O's guy in the NFL. I'm not saying he's bad at it, but that just is it's not the thing that makes Pete great. Pete is a culture builder, and you see it with all of these guys that have left and can't wait to come back to Seattle. Bobby Wagner is the latest example where, Bobby was cut a couple years ago. He goes to L.A., He plays on a team last year that was coming off a Super Bowl win, and he couldn't wait to come back to Seattle and get back to this culture of what Pete has built. He's just different, and he's the engine that drives so much of the success the Seahawks have had here in the 13 years that Pete's been here. So, yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, it was certainly a possibility. If Russ had gone to Denver and thrown for 4,500 yards and made the playoffs and had success, I think Pete might have been in some trouble, because at that point you'd say, hey, wait a minute, you were holding this guy back. He really can throw the ball all over the yard and succeed. Why were you holding him back for all these years? You wasted Russ's prime. But the moment Russ went to Denver and stunk up the joint doing it his way, it became pretty obvious that Pete was a big part of the reason that Russell was as successful as he was. And that took whatever doubt there was completely away. At that point, Pete's almost untouchable here in Seattle.
What did you think of all the stuff? I mean, it became so obvious there were so many people that didn't like Russell Wilson. Oof. And they were just, it was like they were reveling in him failing. Like, what did you make of that, having covered basically his entire career until he left, and everyone couldn't wait to laugh at him when he was failing?
Well, I mean, as a sports radio host, I'm sure you can realize it was unbelievable. I mean, we had two teams. We got to cover the Seahawks every week and the Broncos every week, even though, the Broncos weren't here. It was awesome. And it was fun because it was going the way everybody in Seattle wanted it to be. Russ is he's a tough nut to crack, because I don't necessarily think he's a bad person. I think that he is got a lot of Alex Rodriguez to him. There's a lot of that just real desire to be liked, to have a legacy, but unwilling to just allow it to come to him.
Yeah.
Right? You hear that word legacy a lot from Russ, and it's ironic that his pursuit of a legacy that he wanted may lead to him being the only player I can think of in history who took himself out of the Hall of Fame without doing something, steroid related, off the field related, something like that. I've never seen a player go from surefire Hall of Famer to I don't think he's going to make it.
Really?
Just by playing as poorly as he did.
Super Bowl champion. Was he an MVP? I can't remember. Was he?
He's never received an MVP vote. He was not the MVP of the Super Bowl.
Okay. And frankly, he'd be a two-time Super Bowl champion if they handed it off on one play, right?
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. But he also threw the pick. And so I think what has happened is it really taints a lot of, there are always these people that said, oh, Russ doesn't throw the ball enough and he's a system quarterback. And I didn't really agree with it at the time. I think what Pete did is a great job of putting Russ in position to succeed and take advantage of some really great skills that he has. That wasn't good enough for Russell Wilson, who said, no, I want MVP votes. I'm chasing this legacy.
Right.
And to do it, I've got to throw the ball more. Well, that's not really who he is. He's not a sit in the pocket and throw for 4,500, 5,000 yards a season.
Right.
He's a run around a little bit, use the running game, play action, win the game late with some unbelievable clutch moments, and, of course, throw in the deep ball. But he didn't want that. And I think that is going to end up being his undoing.
Okay. I mean, because you probably know this. If he plays 3 more seasons and has 3,000 yards each season, which is a low number these days, he'll be top 10 all time in passing yards. Top 10.
Yep. I know. I'm telling you, the vibe here is that is sort of like he's walked himself right out of the Hall of Fame.
Huh.
And he certainly has walked himself out of the hearts of Seahawks fans. I mean, you watched all these guys come back over the last few years, even guys who left ugly, like Richard Sherman, et cetera. They get cheers. Nobody can't wait to get him back. Russell Wilson's the only former player I've ever seen come in and get booed the way he did. And people were furious at the way it went down and the way he left and the things that were said. Jody Allen all but, insinuated in writing that Russell wasn't giving it his all and wasn't fully committed while he was here. It got real ugly. And then when it went the way it did in Denver last year, A, it was hysterical, and B, everyone was like, man, Pete kind of had a pretty good control over this thing more than anybody realized.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you about John Schneider for a moment, because he's rebuilding the team, and the last couple drafts you guys have had specifically look like he's really flipped it very fast here. He's one of those, Dan Snyder went through a lot of people, and he's one of the few, him, Sean McVay, a couple others that came through here that are ones that got away from this franchise, I thought, early. Schneider showed the signs of it. But again, things were kind of going the wrong way, and now that Russ is gone, it seems as if he's really figured out a way to restock that team very quickly.
Yeah, John. First of all, John's great, and he's one of the all-time great guys. Anybody who's ever been around him, he's funny. He's a normal dude who just so happens to be the GM of an NFL football team.
Yeah,
he'd probably be more comfortable quoting early 2000s comedies with you than talking about NFL players, et cetera. It's just sort of how he's wired. John's done a really good job in the last few years by not chasing what they needed and just going out and getting great players. And things were awesome for John in the early part of his career here, right, when he drafts basically the entire Legion of Boom plus Russ. And then when they started looking for, okay, how are we going to fill X, things got away from them a little bit, right? They trade for Jimmy Graham, which was a disaster. He wasn't popular on the team. If you want to be a physical football team, it's pretty hard to have a tight end who won't block, right? So you destroy your image chasing the things that they thought would help Russ. They take an injury on the defensive line, and then it was, all right, well, now we got to trade for Sheldon Richardson, and that didn't work. Offensive line didn't work. You got to go trade for Brown. And it's just, it felt like they were constantly chasing it rather than being on top of it. And when Russ left, it seemed to free them up to just start over and go get a whole bunch of young, talented dudes rather than trying to live with the ghosts of Russell Wilson, Richard Sherman, et cetera. And when he did, he ended up with a couple of high draft picks, partially thanks to Denver, and the problems that they had. And you end up with a whole bunch of talent. It's not just the first round guys, although Devin Witherspoon is, wow, he is a pretty legit, interesting, intriguing player to watch. But it's been the second rounders and some of the mid round guys. They've really struck gold on a few of these dudes.
All right, I'll let you go on this because we just lived this, and it's going to be, for you all, it's going to be for very different reasons than we had a sale. But are you guys getting sold? And if you are, is Jeff Bezos buying the Seattle Seahawks in the next couple of years?
It's a good question. Eventually, I think they will be sold. There's Brock knows more about this than I do. He's my partner, and Brock Heward, who you guys probably know from his time at ESPN and Fox. But Brock says there's some stuff going on with the deal with the city that if the team gets sold at a certain time, there's such an expensive, poison pill in the deal that it would make it essentially cost prohibitive to do. At some point that will run out, and it might be in another year, it might be in another 3 years, but at some point that will run out. I'm told that Jody Allen enjoys it and she's happy running the Seahawks, but there may be some issues with the trust where she has to sell it. So my guess is they get sold within 5 years, but probably not for a few more, somewhere in the 3 to 5 range. And at that point, who the heck knows? I mean, the number of people that can afford an NFL team is diminishing. right? And
we needed 20 people to buy our team. That's what ended up happening.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I just think of I don't know if you're a fan of Billions, but I just think of that scene in Billions where he's trying to buy the Giants, and they say, "Hey, this is how we knight people in America." It's like, yeah, right? Like they don't want hedge fund guys, and they don't want this kind of person. You don't want that kind of person. It's a responsibility. So Bezos has never really shown a real interest in Seattle. He just moved out of Seattle, actually, like just this week. So I don't think it would be Bezos, but whoever it is going to make a lot of money because there's no safer bet in the world than owning an NFL football team unless your name is Daniel Snyder.
Mike, it's a pleasure catching up with you. Thank you so much for doing this last minute. And hopefully if you go to the game, I'll see you at the stadium this weekend.
Oh, are you going to be there?
I call the game. Are you kidding? I call the games for the Commanders. What are you talking about? Yeah.
I know you call the games.
Where do you think I was doing that from? I do it at the game.
Oh, are you going to be there? That's amazing. Wow. That's so cool. You get to travel and stuff? Oh, my gosh. What a life you live.
I get to travel to the game I call. Yes.
Grade A troll job. Yes. Grade A. That was awesome.
All right, Mike.
You get to do that on the team plane?
Yeah.
Too? Wow.
Yeah. Whole thing.
Wow.
We have hamburgers on it. They're pretty good, too. They bring hamburgers. You get free hamburgers. It's great. All right. All right, Mike. Thanks.
See you,
Appreciate it. All right, see you. That's, is he kidding or not? I can't even tell. Is he kidding?
Yeah. He said that. He said he was joking when you were losing your mind.
Holy cow. All right. We'll take a quick break. More Seattle talk. KJ Wright, former Super Bowl champ, is going to join us next. Bram watches show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. This is turning into, for Washington, an enormous game this weekend against the Seattle Seahawks at 4-5. And with more teams unlikely to make the playoffs, with 2 1-win teams, 2 2-win teams, a couple 3-win teams in the NFC, it's as weak as we thought it would be. Washington really wants to kind of turn their season around and make a run for a wild card. It kind of goes through Seattle this weekend, so we'll have to see what we get when we come cross-country and take on KJ Wright's old team, the former Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ with the Seahawks, who you can hear now out in Seattle on 710 a.m. with the KJ Wright Show and his podcast, KJ All Day, joins us now. Hey, KJ, how are you? Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Bram, doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. Of this current team, if you go and look who they have the wins against and you go and look who have the losses against, it's a couple 1-win teams, a 2-win team. They've lost to some better teams. They got beat pretty badly the other day against Baltimore. Are they good? Like, what do you make of Seattle at 5-3?
You hit it right on the head. We've beaten Joshua Dobbs. We've beaten Bryce Young. But when you look at when we played Matt Stafford, they embarrassed us. When we played Lamar Jackson, we got ran out of the stadium. And I'm looking at us when we play high-level caliber teams. The only really good win we have is from the Detroit Lions. And just looking at us on offense, we got to find our identity. Just we can't run the ball. Red zone has been a disaster. Third down has been a nightmare. And Geno Smith, I'm really waiting for him to really get this thing turned around because the vibes in the city are low. I know a lot of people are upset calling for his job, all kind of craziness. And so he really has to get back to the drawing board. He really has to do what he did last year when he was comeback player of the year, when he was that Pro Bowl quarterback, because we're in a good position. We was number 1 last week in the NFC West. And so we have done some good stuff this year, but we know it's a long season. We're about to hit a stretch with you guys, the Cowboys, with the Niners, with the Eagles. And so we got to get it figured out this Sunday versus the Commanders.
They're calling for Drew Lock. The fans want Drew Lock to come in?
Oh my God, it's bizarre. it's crazy. And to their credit, I know that Geno hasn't played magnificent football. But we're 5-3 right now. Teams would love to be where we are right now, and just our chemistry, our identity on offense. I'm telling you, we're not running the football well. We're not getting the ball to DK enough. We couldn't figure out how to get Jack Smith and Jigba going. But so our identity is like the biggest letdown this football season.
All right.
When Geno is on, he's on.
So, well, let me ask this, if this was a problem, because I remember watching them. I think it was either Sunday night or Monday night when they played the Giants. And Geno got hurt, right? Got hurt. Yes. And then the announcers were going on and on about how Pete Carroll said he's so confident in Drew Lock. If he just puts Drew Lock in, that's fine. And then he walked out there and he threw a couple dimes. Is that the problem here? That, like, he got pumped up and everyone thinks he'd be the answer?
Look, here's the thing. Coach Carroll will pump up anybody. He can sell salt to a snail if he wanted to. But I'm not going to lie. Geno, he has not been right since that injury. Drew Lock came in. They stormed up and down the football field. He went back out But just that one drive when he came in, like, oh, we may have something here out of this backup quarterback we have in this Russell Wilson trade. And all through training camp, they were cheering his name. Even going back to when it was the quarterback competition, they wanted Drew Lock to be the guy. There was an energy in the city. But we're not going to entertain that. We're not entertaining that. Geno is the guy. He earned his contract for a reason. He made the playoffs last year. He's in a slump. We're just going to call it what it is. He is in a slump, but he has to get out of it quickly because Coach Carroll, he hates turnovers. So 8 turnovers in the last 4 games goes against the Coach Carroll philosophy. It goes against everything he stands for. Protect the football. Trust your defense. Let's get this thing turned around.
Did you buy it last summer when he won the job that he was going to be the right guy to be the quarterback of the Seahawks?
I didn't think he would have the season that he did last year. I'm not going to lie and say that I saw that coming. Comeback Player of the Year, Pro Bowl, big contract. No way, Jose. I did not see that coming. But he proved the entire world wrong. He proved everyone, all his doubters, he made sure they stayed quiet. But when you saw the resume he put together, put up a lot of points, put up a lot of passing yards. He broke Russell Wilson's single-season passing yards record in his first year starting. No one knew that, but he broke Russell Wilson's record. And so he did some good stuff. He earned himself a starting spot. But right now, this new narrative is coming around, a lot of questions. Is he a guy? Was it a fluke? Can he lead us to the playoffs again? So there's a lot of questions surrounding Geno Smith, unfortunately.
Okay. So in your point of view, is it his play? Is it an offensive line that maybe isn't the strength of the team? Is it the coordinator? Like, what do you think's going on with Seattle right now?
Let me tell you, it starts from the top down and it starts inside out. When I say it starts from the top down, it starts from Shane Waldron. We ran the ball when we played the Browns 11 times in the first half, only 2 times in the second half. This past game, we only had 28 yards rushing. And it's like the style of plays, the play calling is real vanilla right now. Then you go to the offensive line. These 5 guys, center, 2 guards, 2 tackles, they haven't played together since week 2. Our right tackle went out. We had our guard go out. We bring in Jason Peters, the longtime vet. He's playing right tackle right now. And so these guys have not played together at all for no period of time. And so when you watch the Ravens, they was blitzing us left and right, up the middle, and they're just coming scot-free. What is the quarterback supposed to do with that when he got a Patrick Queen screaming right in his face by the time he snaps the ball? And then we go to Geno Smith. It's the decision-making from him. It's the decision-making is just throwing it into double coverage. He's just throwing it to guys to get interceptions, sack force fumbles. And so it starts with the play caller. Then it goes to the offensive line. And obviously, Geno got to be better.
Yeah, I wonder, like, this feels like a trend. I mean, you're telling the same story here. I mean, Eric Bieniemy came in. We're like a 65-35 pass team with a quarterback who's, I'm going to ask you about Sam Howell in a minute if you've seen him at all, but like with a really young, inexperienced quarterback and very good running backs on this team. And we've had for weeks going, we had a game against the Bears, KJ. I'm not kidding you that they ran 55 straight pass plays. And
no way.
Yeah.
No way.
And so, like, I don't know if this is just a league thing or what you're seeing, but like we have the same things where we're going, why don't we run the ball? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, and it's like it's the coordinators. Obviously, it's his job to put the team in really the quarterback in a position to be successful. If you got a guy like Sam Howell, who I do like, who does some really good stuff, he cannot pass the ball over 50 times a game. That is just bizarre. The pass rush is able to just pin their ears and get to the quarterback. The defense coordinator can just dial up blitzes left and right. They could do so much on the back end to just make you one-dimensional as a football team. And so you have Gibson, you have Robinson, 2 guys that are 2 starting running backs in this league. And so you got to be balanced. You really got to be creative and just put this team in a position to be successful. So for them to do that is pretty dang bizarre to me.
Remind me, were you there for Russ's rookie year, or did you come after he had already come to Seattle?
I'm a year older than Russ, so
okay.
I was there to watch young Russell Wilson.
Okay, so he was there as this, like Hal, as a mid-round pick. I don't know what you expected of him. How did he win you guys over, if that's the right way to put it? Because like that's what we're living here with Sam Howell right now, where I think it's clearly he's like winning everybody over as this 5th-round pick. Did Russ do that, and how did he do it?
Russ did this in OTAs and in training camp. and it was a quarterback competition between him and Matt Flynn. It was not even close. We was like, we're rolling with Russell Wilson. Get this Matt Flynn guy out of here. And he did it by his energy. He did it by showing like he has this it factor that we could resonate with. He scrambled, made some plays like Howell made last week when he played the Patriots. He's throwing the ball on the run, and he didn't put us in bad positions when it came to defensively. Hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch 25, 30 times a game, bomb the football downfield. Defense is going to go out there, create turnovers. You just simply manage the game, do your thing, show your it factor, but let's just play really good complementary football. And I look at Sam Howell, he's doing just that. He's a guy that makes some good decisions. He starts to scramble and throws the ball downfield. So I love what he brings to the table, and I do believe that you could build a team, add him some more weapons around a Sam Howell.
Thought this was it's interesting today. I don't know if you saw the reports out of Boston, but they're literally reporting that Bill Belichick is coaching for his job, and he's like one of those people I look at and I go, I don't know how you ever fire somebody like that. He's as good a coach as the NFL has ever had. You guys have had somebody in Seattle who's done an incredible job. He's a Super Bowl champion, and I look at him and I thought towards the end when things were going wrong with Russ, I wasn't really sure if he'd survive it, and he's been out on the other side. Like, how do you kind of look at someone like that? Obviously, you played for Pete. How do you kind of look at someone like that when things are going the wrong way? When is it the right time to move on, and when is it not? Hang in there with somebody who's done it at such a high level.
Right. And just going back to Coach Carroll and Russell Wilson, they had a decision to make. It was going to be Russ or it's going to be Coach Carroll.
Yeah.
And we saw how that all played out. But Coach Carroll, he's been here for 13 years. I believe he's been in the playoffs 11 out of those 13 or 10 out of those 13 seasons. The guy's a winner. He wins 10-plus games year in and year out, and he's found a way to do it with one era. That was my Legion of Boom era. But with this new team, he's doing some really good stuff with these guys. They've nailed the last two drafts.
Yeah.
Witherspoon, you got Kenneth Walker, you got Jackson Smith. They nailed these past two drafts. And there's a new football team. There's this new era that Coach Carroll, that they want him. Everyone wants him to be the face of this next era we're going into. And so he's the guy. He's winning. If I look at Bill Belichick, and that team is a disaster. It's he's done a phenomenal job. The greatest coach ever. But it's a what have you done for me lately business.
Yeah.
It is how we going forward as a football team. And I don't think that Bill Belichick is going to be going forward next year with this football team.
It's crazy though. I mean, it's like he's been in 9 Super Bowls since the turn of the century. Like,
yeah.
How does he not get the benefit of the doubt that he's having so he's having a bad year? I mean, like, what are we talking about here?
But here's the thing. Let's look at what he did last year. Who was calling their plays last year? Was it Matt Patricia?
Well, we don't know. They wouldn't tell you. Like,
when I looked on the sideline, I saw that man with his paper over his face doing something. I'm sure he was calling plays.
Yeah.
The way that they drafted that center out of UT Chattanooga in the first round, the free agents you bring in.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick, we know, is the head coach and pretty much the general manager. He makes all the decisions. You bring in a Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, I'm not sure the direction they're going as a football team. There's a few bad decisions that Bill Belichick has made. And even with Mac Jones, he's not the guy either.
Yeah.
And so you have to hit the reset button. You got to start fresh. Job well done, Belichick. You're going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But with this era going forward, it's time. It's been a really, really long time.
All right, let me get back to Seattle with you for a moment. I look at this group that they have in the secondary. You mentioned you played with the Legion of Boom, and they had this very famous, incredible secondary you guys had. Witherspoon, Adams, Diggs, Woolen. Boy, that's the makings of maybe the best in the NFL, in my opinion. I mean, they have got quite a plethora of talent back there these days.
Absolutely. And just starting with Jamal Adams, this guy is playing lights-out football. He is so instinctive. He is running. He's healthy. He came out that bad injury he had last year. He's down there in the box doing his thing, tackling TFLs, reading screens. Then you got the young boy, Devin Witherspoon. Everyone was mad. Do we take Jalen Carter? Do we take Devin Witherspoon? And right now he is shutting up all that noise. NFL Rookie of the Month, then NFC Player of the Week. Moves in at nickel. He plays corner. He's super scrappy, really intellectual as well. So I just love our secondary. Clint Hurt, he has his hands full. And which guy do I blitz? Is it Witherspoon? Is it Jamal Adams? Is it Jordan Brooks? Bobby Wagner? That's what I love what this defense is doing.
Yeah.
This football season.
All right, I'll let you go in a second. I have two quick things. I'll let you go. Since you're up there, Michael Penix, is that guy an NFL quarterback?
Yes, and he's the Heisman Trophy winner as well.
Oh, you think so?
Who else would it be?
I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. I guess once he beat Caleb, I guess it goes to him.
We'll see him live and in person. They play Utah this week, so I'll be there to see him live this weekend.
All right, and then I might go to a Kraken game. Are those fun? Because I'm coming up there this weekend. The Kraken game's fun to go to?
Oh, first of all, go to a Kraken game, but go get you some good food while you're up here.
Well, of course.
You got your food picked out?
Well, I mean, it's all seafood for me if I come to Seattle. Like, I got to eat. I got to go down. I'll go down to the fish market. I'll find whatever's fresh. I'll eat down there. That's what I do.
And get a steak, too, please. Go to Metropolitan Grill. Get you a nice, juicy steak.
I'll do that. KJ, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Right. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, thanks. That's KJ Wright, the former Super Bowl champ Pro Bowler. You can hear him up in Seattle on ESPN 710 a.m., the KJ Wright Show, and he's got a podcast called KJ All Day. Take a quick break. We'll be right back. Bram, what's the show? ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Hi, everyone.
Why do you do this every segment?
Hi, everyone.
Do you realize that?
Yeah.
You do it every segment now.
Obviously, I'm like unhinged. It's not even...
Obviously, yeah. I'm just letting you know your patterns.
I meant to bring this up earlier, but I got caught up in Belichick and Chase and all that stuff.
Sure.
The Nationals have changed their start times to 6:45 across the board. Is that correct?
That's right, yes.
I don't have any issue with this. I would say it might turn us into L.A. a little bit with late arriving crowds when we have teams that weren't large crowds.
Sure,
right?
Yeah, right.
And then, but then you get out earlier, which I love the Navy Yard. I don't live there. I don't know a lot of people that do. I know a lot of young people do.
Yeah,
but
totally.
Everyone's coming from somewhere else, and it ain't the easiest place to get in and out of. So the leaving earlier part is, frankly, because that means the game should be over around 9:15.
Correct. Yeah. Around 2.5 hours, something like that. That is what I think it was. I think it was Scott Allen that had the article in the Post that was basically saying this was for Nats fans to get home earlier, not necessarily just getting out earlier. It was so it's not as daunting of a night to go now.
Yeah.
Night in and night out, which I totally get. They're trying to grow their season ticket base too, so whatever makes it easier for season ticket holders. As you said, it's probably going to be LA-ish. I know that it's a late arriving crowd anyways down at Nats Park, honestly, just the way traffic works and the way people work. But I'm a fan of this. The Orioles did this last year, and they're going to do it again this year, I believe. They went, as you heard on our airwaves, their first pitches were at 6:30 before Memorial Day and after Labor Day. So they did kind of like a spring/fall move the games up. The Nats are going to do it in perpetuity. I'm fine with it, honestly. Let's get it started. Like where we're at here in Friendship Heights, that's about the time it would take me to get down there anyways. I'm perfectly fine with it. Earlier start times, I'm all about it. I wish they would experiment more, though, with some 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, more afternoon games. I wish they would float this, but this is a good start because I think this is where we're going to start getting to where we actually start getting some different game times, not just on getaway days, too. So we'll see.
Ted knows the media, by the way. So I didn't get to this yesterday because it's Monday after football, and I just get caught up in not much else of other things.
Sure.
And we won, so there was a lot to talk about there.
That's right, yeah.
But there was a really interesting Friday news dump from Monumental that hit the Washington Post Friday night at 7:30.
Yep, and then hit Saturday morning.
Which hit Saturday morning, which got around to, but I'm going to spend time now talking about this.
Yeah.
They're asking for $600 million to do a major renovation of Capital One Arena.
Yeah.
Now, this was telegraphed a little bit earlier this year when Muriel Bowser's rolling out the red carpet, and still has been, to try to get the Commanders to come back and take the RFK site if DC gets control of the RFK site. And I don't need to go through all the things that would have to happen to make that happen, but the government has made it very clear they'd like to get the football team back. And they also cry poor and say they have no public money for any of this, right? So Ted and the Lerner family both immediately jumped in and said, really? Ted went so far as to say, I might move to Arlington.
Right.
Hinted that.
Which is in line with the Washington Post report initially that the Wizards could stay in Chinatown and the Caps would be playing in Arlington.
I have no issue with that.
Right.
Okay. And, but he also knows, and this is part of the issue here, and it's part of the piece that was written in the Washington Post, Crime has gone up in that part of town.
Yep.
There's a lot of commercial office space that is vacant, that has been since the pandemic. That has a lot of inner cities are having this problem, but that part of town particularly has been stricken by it. And there has not been a return to work down there or a return to that space. And that the epicenter of entertainment there is that arena.
That's right.
And considering how many games are played there, how many concerts, all the events that take place there, I mean, they must fill that thing, 200 nights a year? Probably.
Yeah. If
something
not
like
more.
that,
yeah.
right? Them leaving it, they know, would be devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Devastating, right? And they know it. So much so that they're asking for a devastating amount of money to fix it. The story goes on to say the funding would make up the Sam Fortier, who they, I guess, made write this because he covers the Commanders with me. The funding would make up the bulk of an $800 million renovation plan that Monumental has outlined to the city, according to two people who spoke on condition of anonymity. The remaining $200 million would be covered by Monumental. One of the people outlined the ask. Monumental would get $600 million over 4 years, use it mostly on construction. The major priorities are to transform the seating bowl, fewer nosebleed seats, more seats close to the court and ice, as well as add a food court that would be open during non-game hours and a new glassy entrance at 7th and F. Monumental wants to do incremental construction over 4 consecutive summers to avoid disrupting the play of the seasons for the two main teams, the Capitals and the Wizards. I do love the idea of making it more lower bowl seating, and this is a major renovation. That would be pretty significant. I don't know how they would do that, put in the lobby, put in the food court, whatever. It's extensive, and it'd probably shut down parts of the arena. I get it, but literally changing the bowl on the inside, I don't know how you do that and not disrupt the seasons, but I'm also not in construction, so I don't know. Not that I'm complaining about it, because if that is what they're saying they want to do, I'm actually all for that.
Yeah.
Better seating closer to the ice or the court, I'm all for that happening.
I'm going to guess that's either the first or the last thing they do is for the seating.
I don't know how they would. The seasons are too long. I don't know. How would you not disrupt the arena?
Neither one of them's going on a long playoff run. So, I mean.
Right now.
Right. So, it would probably be the first thing. All right. Hot take here. I actually don't like that plan. I know you're all about it, but we've talked about on this show multiple times already how expensive both of those teams' tickets are.
Yeah.
And you're saying less nosebleeds, more lower bowl? Dude, both of those teams start at $100 and whatever dollars.
I know,
to just get in the lower bowl. So you're telling me actually,
a lot. I'm like, I love going to Caps and Wizards games. It's too expensive, guys.
Yeah,
it just is.
And so what that translates to me as somebody who's a consumer of all the products, not the Caps because I work for them, but you're telling me it's less accessible off this. And that's icky. I don't know. I'm not gonna tell you it's good or bad. It just feels icky to me. We should be having more accessible things. If you're going to do all this and you're going to get this from the city, are you going to hand the city over some tickets for every game to let kids go to games that actually live in the city? I want this to come with a couple of things if you're going to pony up this much money for an arena, not an outdoor stadium. Mm-hmm. We talking about an arena here, right. Allen Iverson voice.
Right.
$600 million.
$600 million.
For an arena that already exists. That's a crap ton of money.
I know.
And I get what they're doing here. It sounds great, those plans, but
they're asking for a new arena is what they're asking for.
Pretty much. And
they're saying we'll use the existing footprint to build a new arena is what they're saying.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what they're saying. They're not this would what they've written and what they've said would radically change what it looks like.
Yeah.
And for $600 million, that thing better be sparkling and technologically sound and be basically brand new. The only thing that isn't going to change, other than the glass facade on one side of it, is the rest of the building would remain the same. But what you would walk into better be modern as you know what.
Right, exactly.
Which I would assume is the case. And I do want to, I want to point out here, I don't have skin in the game in this, because I don't know what tax dollars they have or do not have and what it should go to or not go to. And I'm all for them staying downtown because I do think it would be, I know they're never leaving the area, but still, it would be devastating to that part of town if they were to leave and vacate. I don't know what would go in there, and I remember what that area of town was before they showed up there, and it was crime-ridden. It was
look
tough.
at it now. There's no businesses open anymore.
Right.
There are, but it's not what it was 15 years ago.
There's a lot of hospitality down there because of the games.
The
bars and the restaurants feed off of those nights where 18,000 people are showing up.
Even then, it's not even as much as it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. I mean, that's...
But a lot of the, it's not a hot area to live for young people. I mean, it was when that first went down there and they started renovating down there, it became a hot area to live. And then the wharf became a hot area to live. And now the Navy Yard's a hot area to live. So the young people move around the city and it's hurt them. And then the pandemic came and all the commercial real estate went down and none of these leases were picked up. And a lot of it's not been returned to work out there. It's rough. And if they were to walk, it's bad. And I mean, what am I going to yell about? Leverage points? They have them. They know the district has to work with them. And if you read the statement from a spokesman for the mayor, you hear it. It says the district and Monumental Sports are proud to have had a longstanding and positive relationship that has contributed greatly to the vibrancy of the city. The district recognizes the Capital One Arena serves as an important economic anchor as we continue to reimagine and reinvigorate our downtown. They're not saying they won't do this. They are more than acknowledging we know you can't leave because it would kill us if you leave. But $600 million, that's a lot of cheddar, Ted.
Yeah.
So listen, he's playing hardball with them. He wants a new arena. He must already know that he can go to Virginia if he wants to. I don't think you ask something like that unless you know he could.
And if you look at
which may or may not be true. And the weird part is the soft pedaling of Virginia with the Commanders has been a story that I don't think anyone's following here.
Right.
Like Maryland is handout going, we want you here. DC, at least the mayor is saying, and some on the county board or city board are saying that they do want it. It's not a done deal, but they're saying that they want it. I haven't heard word one from Glenn Youngkin or that state legislature. And granted, it is election day there, and it's going to matter who wins and who has control of this stuff. And maybe we'll hear more about it after the fact. But Glenn Youngkin, who might be running for president, might not, and maybe has more things on his plate, he has not even come close to saying anything even remotely close to what D.C. or Maryland has said about this. I wonder why. Do they have a deal already? Basically, if you end up out of D.C., you come here?
Go on Google Maps and look at that area is right next to Dulles, essentially. Go look at that area, and it's already under construction, which means they are either waiting for something to happen or things already being built up around there where they know they can slot in.
Something's going there.
Here's my...
I've told you this all along. I thought they're going to Virginia. One, because I thought they'd get the most public money. Two, it's, demographically, it's in... Very interesting spot to build something like this. It's a tech corridor. The metro is there. This is why I always thought they were going there. The tea leaves are reading differently for the Commanders these days with this new ownership, and I do think that there is heartstrings being tugged to try to get to RFK if they can. But Virginia has suddenly kind of backed out of this whole thing. Well, they got Ted in the bag? Is that what's happening here? Or did they ask for something they know they can't get?
Well, it's also just it's not as big of an undertaking as getting the football team here. You can also always make the argument that's for 41 games, not 9 or 10 or whatever it is for a football team. So the juice is more worth the squeeze financially, most likely, if you get them. My argument here as a consumer, too, though, is, and you can tell me I'm wrong if you want, are you squeezing out your Maryland folks? Because I know there's a lot of people on the top of the red line from Glenmont and Shady Grove that go to a ton of Caps games, have full season tickets, have had them for 20, 30 years. I don't think they're going to Arlington every night to go see that team.
Arlington, Dulles area, I don't know. Arlington, I don't know.
Okay, I mean, same difference, though. I'm saying if it's at Dulles spot, you're doing what the Commanders were doing if they're moving to Maryland. Your Maryland people are not going to as many games. Somebody at
the Shady Grove Metro, is it that much farther to go to Arlington than it is to go to downtown DC? Probably not.
Or Dulles. I mean, really, it would be whatever spot. I don't know what metro it would be.
Yeah, it's going to be way longer because you're going to have to transfer and go.
Correct.
To get to Arlington's different. You probably still have to transfer, but it's a stop. It's an extra stop on the other side of the bridge.
What I'm getting at is if you're on Shady Grove, you're getting on the red line, you're getting off at Gallery Place, you're going right back home for that part of Montgomery County. Which is a majority of Caps fans.
I got to look at the map. Is there an easy way for people in Montgomery County to not go all the way downtown to get on the line to go out to Virginia? Because if there isn't,
probably not.
Then your point is made. It will take you an hour and a half on a metro to get there.
Right,
exactly. Which is
for a hockey game is not possible.
Not possible. So no one's going to do that. If you're coming from downtown DC or you live out in Virginia, it won't be that big of a deal to do it.
Right.
But if you're out in Maryland, it's going to be a really big deal to do it.
Exactly.
And then there's just something about having your teams in the city that, I don't know, always feels special to me. But whatever. But again, I read this and I go, okay, the city has made it very clear they don't have the money to do the Commander Stadium. They're asking for the same amount of money to completely renovate and basically turn Capital One Arena into a new arena. They're doing it partially because they think they need it, partially because they feel they have leverage because of conditions in the city have changed. There's a part of me that reads, DC's going to turn this down, and then they're going to move, and that's going to be the excuse that they use to move out to Virginia. And I like.
Sounds plausible.
It seems likely.
Yeah.
When they said they wanted that, I went, the Commanders are trying to get that land. We're told they're not getting that amount of money. Why in the world would they give it to them?
I misspoke, by the way. I didn't mean Arlington. I meant Alexandria.
Yeah.
The Potomac Yard station, which isn't built yet, by the way. So there hasn't even been a station built yet. They're going to build a new station. That's already on the map. You following me here?
Yes.
That's on the yellow line. You have to get to Gallery Place to switch to the yellow line. Then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more stops off after the transfer. You're already telling people that are going on their normal route to extend it for probably half an hour with the transfer. Like, I'm just saying, ballpark, if you got a transfer and there's not a train there right away.
They know what their ticket base is. I wonder if they know that a lot of it's coming from Virginia. It must be.
There's a lot of Marylanders, too, though.
I agree, but I don't know what their ticket-based data is. And if their ticket-based data is it's heavy Virginia, then it makes sense. If their ticket-based data says it's heavy Maryland, then that makes no sense to do something like that because you are going to put them in a very difficult position. Like, that's a long trip.
Right, exactly.
Oh, boy. Ted, turning up the heat. That ask seemed a little high, almost like we want you to say no.
Not only that, you're doing this at the end of this era.
Well, I think they're trying to move. That's how I read it, that they're trying to move to Virginia, so they asked for something that DC's not going to give them and is not capable of doing it.
Right.
Oh, everybody's making moves. Yeah. Everybody making moves. Making moves, Theodore.